how did your role in Reflections come about?
Reflections was kind of interesting. Barry Caldwell is the director, and he had previously come to ask me to join a project. Oh Lord, I can't remember the name of it, but it was this really great action project where I would be a spy. It was very much kind of like Alias, and he had this great script that was for a short, but it was probably for like a, you know, more like a 40-minute short or something like that, with potential to be made into a feature. And it was a great script that I instantly loved, but it was impossible. The budget that they needed was just huge to be able to pull off all of the special effects and various characters. And we knew we wanted to work together, but we just sort of kept looking for a project. And then Mark Garbett wrote this script, and Barry just presented it to me. And he loved it, and I loved it. It's an interesting story. The lead character I play, whose name is Carol Anderson, she's unlike many women that you get the chance to play, many women that are on screen. And even more than that, you know, it was a short film that we made, but being that it was a short film, we had a certain freedom with the ending that we wouldn't have with a traditional studio picture, and that's what sold it for all of us. There's a very special twist at the end of the movie that all of us just loved. So that's sort of how it came around.
Your character, Carol, she has a mental power. What kind of, well, in the movie she has a mental power. What kind of research did you do to research something like that?
I always feel weird sort of talking but not talking about it, just because, you know, I don't mean to sound cryptic, but for those who haven't seen the movie, you don't want to spoil the surprise for them. But it's unique enough that it's kind of impossible to do research on. It's quite specific, sort of just to Carol. And honestly, when you find out what it is, more than anything, it's just dealing with your own emotions of how, I guess the way that I always looked at it, the way that I addressed the material was, if you went through life instantly knowing the worst thing about every person that you meet, just how would that affect you? And while that's not exactly what her gift is, it sort of manifests in that sort of way, where she has a way of being able to see sort of the worst in people, the worst thing they've done or the worst thing they're capable of, or just bad things in general. And just the idea of the sort of thick skin that you would need to be able to get through life, and just how constantly vulnerable you would feel. I mean, you know, as human beings, we all know that, I mean, probably everyone has the capacity for evil and the capacity for good, but most people go through life erring on the side of good. And when you are in a position where what you see is the worst in everyone all the time, I mean, essentially there's no one you can trust. You don't want to go anywhere, and that happens with Carol. She really sort of cocoons herself inside of her apartment and purely lives within, you know, within those confines. And it definitely dictates how she manages to survive day to day.
Well, I mean, right now, shows like Medium or some of the other shows that really play on that, so special things that people have, or special gifts that people have. Right. Do you believe in that? I mean, things like, you know, you've seen everything from people bending spoons to premonitions, or people seeing events that either have happened or are going to happen. I mean, are you a believer in that? Do you?
Yes, absolutely. I've never had an experience like that personally. To a vague extent, I know people that I trust that have had some certain things like that, but really the idea that I think has the most merit, you know, within my own mind is that, you know, it's proven we use so little of our brain power, our brain function. I mean, you know, depending on who you talk to, it's like I don't know, 9 to 13% or something. And the idea that, you know, everyone has a sixth sense of some sort. And, you know, whether it's that, you know, the stories that almost all of us have encountered, where you pick up the phone about to call someone and they're on the other end, or, you know, just small things that manifest that way. But absolutely, I think there are certain people that have, well, just gifts of all sorts, or just an ability to pick up on things around them that sort of go by most of us. So, I mean, that manifests in different ways with different people, but absolutely, I think that there's more than just what meets the eye, more than just what's on the surface.
Do you enjoy playing characters? I mean, we all know you from Xena, and a very physical character. Do you enjoy playing the more mentally challenged character or the physical challenged character? I don't know how to put that.
Challenged, I love that.
You know what I mean?
No, I wouldn't disagree with that. I just find it really funny.
Because you've played in another film, you played like a drug addict, alcoholic, and that's a very mental kind of
Right.
situation too. So you have, Eve on one side, but you also have Carol on one side, and then this, I can't remember what was the name of the other character? The drug addict?
Well, there's been so many, but what I'm actually loving, just you sort of brought something to my mind in that I actually played Eve like she was a recovering addict. That's how I actually, that
That's
was my
interesting.
impetus for her, because her addiction was violence and, just power. But I always felt that she was someone who constantly was on the edge of going back to that dark place and was just day to day trying to get through the day, making the right choice, making a better choice. And it's the only way that I could really wrap my mind around being able to make such a complete 180 twist. But it's also funny when you just say, getting, whether it's mental or physical. I'm definitely, personally, I'm a pretty active person in life, but I have a brain that does not quit, which is sort of a detriment. It just, my wheels are always spinning to the point of, absurdity, in that I really ruminate over things. And I guess the reason I say that is just to say that I can definitely relate to people that are sort of trapped in their mind a little bit.
Right.
So, not that translates to being super smart, but just being, just sort of being caught up in your thoughts, which I think definitely, specifically, was what you would say Carol was dealing with. She was just in her head constantly.
Definitely.
And just also when you're not able to have those connections with other people, I think you sort of end up in your mind a lot more. So I don't know, there's a freedom in both of them that's just really exhilarating, whether it's a character that has a lot of physical power or physical freedom, or whether it's someone who just has a different point of view. I don't know that I would say I would choose one over the other.
You like them
So,
both.
yeah, I definitely
It's
like them
interesting
both.
you just said that about Carol, about the whole, her being all in her own mind. That's why she's an artist. That's her outlet.
Absolutely, yeah.
I just got that.
Yeah, well, there's interesting things. As a short film, of course, you're limited in what you get to see of her, but we worked really hard to try to represent a life for her that made sense. And one of the details that I absolutely love is that if you look closely at her apartment, it is floor to ceiling with National Geographic magazines. And I love the idea that while she feels incapable for numerous reasons, but of course, mostly because of this issue that she has, she feels incapable of being able to truly explore the world. She wants to desperately. So I think, she has pictures, she has travel photos, she's, someone who very much wants to explore but is trapped where she is. And absolutely, I think painting is an expression for her of just, being able to communicate, but also just being able to explore other places or other ideas, or just visually to see something different besides just the four walls that she constantly sees. So, absolutely.
Yeah, I never thought about that. Well, thank you very much.
Oh, of course. Thank you.